Hello gang, in this video we're going to be discussing how to move a WordPress site around. So you may be doing this to move it from one computer to another, sticking with a local host. You may be doing this to take it from your local host and get it on the web. So going from Zamp to GoDaddy. So in this lecture we'll cover these items, and some of you are receiving this in week 10. Those of you in my online course will be receiving this presentation in week 14 because it's just a little bit more timely. And those of you in the live section, we cover this in week 10 and we're going over it again in week 14. So you kind of get it twice. So this is what these slides will cover. And during this short lecture, I'm going to try and keep this one pretty short because we got to have some time at the end for work on our final projects, and I just don't think it needs to be that long. We're going to cover exporting and importing via the dashboard, and then we're going to talk about moving your entire site just over and above the dashboard, so using the actual database and just moving it from one place to another. And we will do, as an example, we will go from Zamp right to GoDaddy, which I know a lot of you may want to do at the end of the course. That's one of the main reasons I'm doing this video, so that if you need to do that at the end of the course, you won't need me to do it for you. You can just refer to this video and it will show you exactly what to do. So starting in WordPress, there is a section in WordPress for exporting. So over here in Chrome, I have my site up. This is my demo site, which again is not at all going to look like your final project loaded full of content. This is just the one I've been using to show you examples. So I'm going to jump over to dashboard here, and in the dashboard you see tools and you see import and export. So export allows you to choose from pages, posts, or all contents, and if you have certain plugins that are content heavy, they should pop up in this list too. So I'm using a meta slider, and that would actually be an exportable item. So you can export this and it will, I'm going to try all content. Okay, and so in the slides here, this is what I'm doing. So you go to you can do post pages, custom post types, all this stuff will go with it when you export. And it's sometimes necessary to do this if you have WordPress already set up on another computer or with another hosting platform and you don't want to mess with the database. I think it's actually easier to do the other way, but I'm showing you both ways because it's important that you understand this, especially if you're going to submit your final project and you did set up GoDaddy and by accident you did not use hosting with cPanel, which means you only have access to the WordPress dashboard. You don't really have access to your database in PHP My Admin, which means you'd have to export your content this way. So I'm going to go here and try this out. Filter the way you want it to. You don't have to filter it. You can just export the whole thing, which if you're doing this for your final project, that's what I want you to do. Now, 99% of you are going to be exporting via the PHP My Admin panel. You're not going to be doing it this way, but this is just in case let's say you already had a WordPress site set up and a bunch of stuff was running, but you wanted to import your posts from another site. This would be the way to do it. If you wanted just your posts, you would not do the whole database. So I'm actually going to do all content. Well, let's do just post. It doesn't matter what you do. You can choose post and filter by category and date range and all this stuff. You can do the same thing for pages. Let's do posts and just take them all and download the file. Okay, and you could put this in an appropriate folder. I'm just going to throw it on my desktop like I usually do for demos, but here is the file. Give it a second there. So it should be fully downloaded now. Your computer is not likely to recognize it as a standard file type. It's going to be an XML file. So this type of file is generally set up to be opened as a database type file. You could open it up in Excel and look at it, but it's not gonna be useful for you. You would just take this exact file and import it via WordPress. So once you know you can export stuff, if I jump to the next slide here, when you click and download, you get an XML file. That's what I just talked about. So certain things come in different file types. Okay, that's an XML file I have. So once you get it downloaded and you have another site set up, another WordPress installation where you want to import just these posts, you would then go to the import section. So in the import section, if I jump over there, it's in the same area. So tools, import instead of export. And from here, you can decide where you're importing from. So this doesn't just work pertaining to WordPress or specific to WordPress. There are a lot of CMS type database driven platforms now that people are using, and all of these in this list are all quite common. There's Tumblr, which a lot of people use for blogging. There's Blogger, Blogroll, LiveJournal, RSS. There's all sorts of different types. And if it's not in this list, you can search the plugin directory. I'm sure there's import tools for Joomla, for Drupal, because all of these operate in a similar kind of way using PHP code. So this is coming from WordPress, and you know that. So you would choose WordPress as the type you're going to import, and then you would choose the file, pick it up, and import it. So mine's on my desktop, it's right there. So I'm not actually going to do this in this video because then I import right over. Well, it would just double up everything, I think, but I'm just demonstrating to you how you might do that. Okay, so this further discusses what you can do. It's kind of building on the other two slides, that you can do certain things within poster pages. You can do all the poster pages. You can filter through this way, and other options. You can filter all this different stuff, and then you can import that back in. This slide would be more appropriate to be right there. So then the import screen. So this is an example of the export screen that I already went over. And then you go to Tools Import, and I just showed you that screen. And to import, you would you'd have to be an administrator, by the way. That's another thing, your user privileges. So let me just jump back to the dashboard here. Your user settings are in here. And you could see that I'm an administrator. And you would automatically be an administrator. I've never really gotten into that much in this course. I talked about at the beginning how you can add users and only give them editing privileges for posts or pages, things like that, which is very useful and handy in WordPress. You need to be an administrator to do import, export. By the way, and I'm going to make another short video for this, I think I mentioned this in the Yoast video, how I talked about how you can change the color of your main dashboard menu and kind of the view of your menu. I thought it was in appearance. I never bothered to do this. It doesn't affect your site in any ways, but it's actually in profile. It's in here. I'm going to do a really short video on this, so you can choose like a different type of layout, and it kind of changes the background of the area in which you're working, and you go down here and update profile. It's kind of a neat thing to do, just to change things up in WordPress for a bit. I just thought I'd throw it in there in one of my last videos, so for the term here. But yeah, make sure you're an administrator, and then you will be allowed to do this type of stuff. So these steps in the notes that are also available to you and Fancha Online go through what you need to do step by step. And again, this is something that you'd use more if you had one site set up and another site set up somewhere else, and you didn't want to really change the databases for either one of these sites. You just wanted to move some content in and out. That's when you'd use import and export. And here, going to the next slide, you could see the same things that I've already demoed. It gets into the different types and stuff. Or you could just move the whole database. So this is the part of the lecture that I wanted to get to here. This is where I'm going to spend a little bit more time, because if you simply have a site that's all set up, everything's up and running, it's all working, and then you decide you want to move the entire site to another location, either another remote location or another local location, like move it to another computer that's running Zamp or WAMP or something, or you want to move it to a remote location, like you've set up GoDaddy and you want to move your Zamp WordPress site to GoDaddy. That's what I'm going to demo here. So just like the test, you would export your database, and then what you do is you set up a new database in the place you're going to move the site to, clear it out, and import what you have in the database that you exported. Get out of here. So this kind of breaks down what you're going to do here, and I'll kind of read through this and then I'll do it. It's kind of doing it in the reverse order I did for the first set of slides, but that was just a quick demo in case you need to move some content. If you're moving an entire site, this is how you'd want to do it. So you'd set up a fresh WordPress install in your GoDaddy account, or if you're using HostPapa or whoever, it's usually like the click of a button, and then you set your settings and you set it up. So I'll do that in the video here. Then you go into PHP My Admin, and you change you clear the database that it just set up for this site. And once you clear the database, you then import the database that you would have exported. So here you go into Zamp, and you go to PHP My Admin, and you click on the database you want to export, and you export it. And then the database you set up here that you're going to clear, as you're going to see me do in the video, you would then import it. So it's actually not that big of a deal. And then if you have a lot of plugins and a lot of themes, you would also want to go, get out of here, one step further and move your entire root directory. Ideally, it works better if you do the database and you move the root directory as well. I'm just going to do the one because it'd take too much time in the video to do the other. It's actually not that long, but I'll show you how to do it either way. From the same screen where you cleared the database, you would go in and upload the one you got from Zamp. This should actually change the username and password that you set up in your WordPress site when you set it up in GoDaddy. And things to remember, even after you transfer your pages or post your entire data, you still need to transfer any raw data. So theme folders, plugins, uploads. For example, when you go to transfer this, if you then try and load your site and it's just a blank white screen, everything's probably working. It's just not loading up because the theme doesn't exist in the new root directory that you created. So this will all make a heck of a lot more sense now when I go and demo it. All right, and that would be the end of the notes for today. So now you're going to see me actually demo this. So this would be the other method. So here, I have my site all set up. It's in Zamp. So either on your Mac or PC, you're going to be able to access in localhost, okay, this dashboard control panel for Zamp. And you're going to be able to go into PHP My Admin. Okay, and you might have more than one database. You might have a few in there. So click on databases. And we've done this a bunch of times. So my database is actually the demo site database that I've been using throughout the course. So my particular database here is WPDB01. If you were doing this for your final project, you would probably have given that a different name. So you click on the database. Make sure you click on the database. It's very important you remember that. I'm going to have a separate video just for exporting databases for your final project, just to remind you how to do it. So once you click on it, you don't have to check these all. Once you get in here and you see all this stuff, you can then hit export. The issue that students run into is anywhere from PHP My Admin, you can hit export from here. You can click on databases. You can hit export from here. You can go into pretty much anywhere in here and hit export. But where you need to be if you're exporting a site is in the database where all the tables are. Then you hit export, and it will prompt you to download an SQL file. You can leave it set to quick, hit go, and then put it in a place where it's nice and easy to grab. It'll automatically be named according to what the database was named, and it will look like this. Now, this is not a file you need to open up and mess around with. If you wanted to see it quickly, you could open it up in Notepad++ or brackets, and it'll show you a large text-based file that includes all of the data. If you scroll through here, you'll start to actually see your posts and pages and stuff. It's a lot of stuff, okay? And you don't need to look at that. Just leave it so that when you set your stuff up in GoDaddy, you can go and import it. So this method that I'm about to do would also work if you just set up another database on another computer and you wanted to import your site from there. Either way works. So before I jump to GoDaddy, I'm going to grab one more thing, and that would be the root directory. So in the case that I want to, for example, let's go to C drive, Zamp, that I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to reinstall my themes and all my plugins. My dashboard will tell me that those are supposed to be there from the database, and I'll have to just install them. But if I didn't want to have to bother to do that, I would go into HD Docs, and WordPress happens to be my root directory for the demo site. I would zip this up, okay, and then I would move it over to wherever I was going to unzip it and use that as my root directory. Alternatively, you can just accept the new root directory that your remote host creates if you're using GoDaddy or something. If you're moving it to another computer and just doing another local host and migrating your site there, you probably just zip this up and do it that way. So I'm actually going to show you an even easier way, which is I'm going to copy this entire, well, I'm not even going to copy it. You know what? I've already shown you in a separate video how to use Filezilla. Okay, so Filezilla is a file transfer protocol client. I'm going to open that up, and when the time comes, I will be able to move my root directory over to the new place I'm creating for this WordPress site. So for now, I'll just leave that open. If you need to go back and refer to my videos in the playlist, there is a video where I cover FTP. That would probably be here. I think I get into it there. I think I also get into it in another video as well. It's come up a few times in the class. And I'll cover it here as well. So Filezilla Client, the best place to download that if you don't have it yet would just be download.com, because then you know it's not going to come with, this is that CNET site, you know it's not going to come with viruses or anything. Okay, so I would go in here and search for Filezilla and just get the client. Okay, and it works for Mac or PC. Sorry, my computer's just catching up with itself here. Okay, so if you don't have it yet and you want to try this, that way you can go and grab it. Open source FTP client. I would just get that one right there. Okay, don't get the server, get this one in the middle. In the meantime, I'm going to go into my GoDaddy account. So the process that I'm going to go through here, this would require you to have set up GoDaddy. Now that is in a separate video, and you would have gone into GoDaddy. You wouldn't have had an account. You would have gone in to go set up an account. So if I was here, let me log out again. If you hadn't done this yet, okay, you would go to GoDaddy.com. You would go to hosting, okay, because you haven't purchased hosting, and it always will say on sale. Every single time you go there, it'll say on sale. So don't choose WordPress hosting. Now WordPress hosting and manage WordPress hosting doesn't allow you to access the cPanel, so you couldn't even import your site this way. I think there is a way to get to PHP My Admin, but it's very roundabout and it's super annoying. This, which is not really any more expensive, if you just go with the economy hosting, that's more than enough bandwidth to host a single WordPress site. If you're going to be doing multiple sites, then you need to go up to the deluxe, which is not that much more. And this would be $6.99 a month if you're doing it for at least a year. If it's not a year, you could do it for as little as a month. It's going to be a little bit more, but it's not expensive. So you would add that to the cart. You'd grab a domain, get the cheapest one you can. If you want a really cheap one, get a .info for 1 year, and that'll be pretty cheap. Or some really obscure .com wouldn't be expensive either. And you'd set up your account. So I'm not going to do that in this video because it's already been demoed, and I'll show you the exact video here in the playlist. So if you go to my playlist and you go to week 8, final project site, setting up, choosing local or remote, and you go, there's a note at the beginning of the video. You go to about 8 minutes in this video. That'll show you exactly how to set up the GoDaddy account. I think it's about 8 minutes here. So I show a new setup for Zamp. Okay. So I'm talking about it here. Yeah, so I set everything up from it's a little over 10 minutes, and I do the whole GoDaddy setup with one of my students' credit cards. So you can see me go through the entire process and set it all up. So this is assuming that you've done that if you want to migrate a site to GoDaddy. Okay, so you would have already gone to this video in week 8 and done this. All right, so remember that this is there for you in the playlist. I'll even link to it in this part of the video that I'm recording right now. So if you've already done that, now I can go and log right in. So I'm assuming you've done all this. I'm just going to log in. Okay, and I'm one of you guys now, and I've set this up. So I'm going to log into my GoDaddy account. I've already initiated my hosting account. It's all set up, so I should be able to just log in, click on Manage Hosting. You guys should have cPanel just like me. And I'm going to click on Manage. And I'm going to set up a new WordPress site. Now keep in mind, I have a lot of WordPress sites in here, so you're going to see a lot of other stuff when I go to set some of my stuff up. You won't have that. You'll just have one site, which will actually simplify things. So I'm going to set up a new WordPress installation. It's the first thing I'm going to do. And then you'll get the Hello World 2015 theme. It'll look just like that. It'll do an automatic kind of WordPress install. So you install this application. Everything we learned how to do with Zamp, it does in the background automatically. Okay, and typically if you just have a single domain and this is your main website for that domain, you would not put it in a subdirectory called blog. I'm actually going to put mine in a subdirectory called sample migrate because we're practicing migrating a site here. So my site will be at mrmikesloan.com/sample migrate. So, and this again though is optional. You don't have to do it that way. You guys would likely, if you just had one domain, just keep that blank and just go .com. So I'm going to do sample-migrate, and this is all good. I accept the license. If you guys are anything like the rest of my students, I would go down here and do not limit login attempts because you guys are really bad at saving your usernames and passwords, but you somehow end up remembering them after you try like 5 or 6 times. Now, what's going to happen anyway is that whatever you set here, okay, so I'm going to set a username and I'm going to set a password. Whatever you set here doesn't really matter because once you clear this database that this is going to create, that this install is going to create and put in the database that you exported, it resets the username and password to be the same username and password you were using the whole time locally on your computer. So this really doesn't matter. Now here, you should definitely put the email that you're going to be using for this website, for this business. Don't leave it set to that random administrator email. You can leave this. This will be overwritten as soon as you put in the new database. That's fine. And so will that, actually. So install. Go ahead and install it. I mean, those settings aren't really that crucial because once you install the new database, it just overwrites it anyway. So as you already know, if you've seen this demo in week 8, this doesn't take long. Okay, there, it's already done. There, nope, there it goes. Right there. So it's doing right now, it's copying the database tables. This is the new My Blog. Okay, as soon as it's complete, you can go back out of here. Don't mess with it in there. You don't even need to look at that now. Go back to the home of your cPanel. And from here, you will go into PHP My Admin. So in PHP My Admin, it will open up a screen that looks very similar to the Zamp PHP My Admin. It's almost identical. And you can click on databases. Now this is going to be quite simple for you. You shouldn't have a big pile of databases. You'll probably have one of these. Don't click on information schema. You'll have one database that looks like this. It'll be WP something. The one that I just created, I've deleted one. Where would it be? So I'm going to have to look at each of these and see. This is probably the one. I'll just go to the post, whatever one I have that says hello world. This is a comment. Yeah, so this is probably the one. All the rest of them would have stuff in them. Yeah, so this sample migrate. So if you had multiple ones, you'd want to go into the database and go into the options and make sure that it was the one set up at this location. I knew it was number 3 because I've recently deleted one and it was in position 3. So I didn't have to go. Now for you guys, you should have one database. Here's what you do. You click on the one database. You check all tables. Pay very close attention here. Check all tables. Go here and hit drop. It will prompt you and say, whoa, are you sure you want to do this? And you go, yep, I'm clearing the whole thing. I want it all cleared out. If you need to see that again, just rewind the video a little bit and watch it again. You got to click on the database, clear the entire database. Now you go import and you take from that database that you exported from your local site right here and you import it. Okay, and this was the database export. This wasn't the example from the beginning of the lecture where I was showing you how to just move pages or posts. This was the entire database from PHP My Admin and Zamp. Stick it there, hit go. Assuming you properly exported the database the way I showed you at the beginning of this part, it should have no issues. You should get the green check mark and it should be imported. Now, as soon as that import is done, go back to the PHP main area, go to databases, and click back into that database. Once you do that, after you get the check mark, you go back through, click on that database. You should see all the stuff from your database. Now, you're not quite done yet. There's something you got to fix, or you're going to be sitting here forever trying to figure out why this isn't working. So if you had like shut your GoDaddy account off and pulled it right over from another GoDaddy account, it was at the same domain before, you wouldn't have to fix this. But because when this was on your computer, it was set up at localhost, the permalinks are set up for localhost-WordPress. So you just have to go in and fix these first two things. I'm in options. So go into options and set these to be, okay, your new domain. So that's sample-migrate. That's mine. Yours is going to be whatever .com or .info. And make sure it's typed in correctly. That'll be a problem if it isn't. And hit go. Go to the next one. So again, I'm in WP options. So PHP My Admin, after you import the databases. Database, go here, WP options. I didn't have to go back through that again. I was just showing you again. Go to the next one, click it, and those are your two main permalinks. Once you fix those, everything should work tip-top. If you don't fix those, when you go to the login screen, it'll look really weird, and when you log in, it just won't work. So you got to make, if that happens, it's because you haven't fixed these permalinks. So make sure you fix this. Sample-migrate, hit go. Okay, now I should be able to, without an issue, go to mrmikesloan.com/sample-migrate, and my site should come up. Now, if it comes up as a blank white page, there is a reason for that. I talked about this earlier in the lecture, where when you migrate a site to a remote host and you're migrating just the database first, you haven't migrated the actual WP content folder. Okay, that's the one that has the themes and the plugins. So whatever theme I was using is not, it knows, the database knows I want that theme and it's activated, but the theme itself isn't there yet. So it just comes up blank. Not a reason to be alarmed. You should still be able to go here without an issue. And using the same login and password that you had for Zamp locally, because you just imported that from that database, you should be able to log in, and here I am. Okay, MrMikeSloan.com, sample migrate, everything's working tip-top, no problem. Go to Appearance Themes. This is what's happening, right? The theme, it's all hashed out. It knows it's there. The database knows it should be there. It's just not downloaded yet because you haven't moved the root directory. So this is where I said you have a couple of different options. This is where the FTP could kick in, where you could just transfer the files. Or if it's just like a couple plugins in a theme and you know they're from the dashboard, you can just go here and just grab it again. So if you go here and search for the Vantage theme, which is the one that I'm currently using, okay, install it, activate it. Obviously, those of you on Macs are never going to have those Mac issues anymore. If you're using a remote host now, all that stuff is gone. So it's installed. Successfully installed. Now it's already activated. Sorry, it should be activated. If I go to themes now, that was the theme I was using. Oh no, it looks like it. No. Wait, where? Yeah, it bumped me over to another theme when I installed that one. So activate. Okay, now it's activated. I don't know why it does that. And I could have just done that and went to another theme and the site would have been working. But this is the theme I was using. So now you see it looks exactly the same. Now here's where you're going to start to be missing things. See that little thing up there? Remember at localhost how I had a picture here and it's no longer there? That's because that information hasn't moved yet, okay? So in lieu of going through and trying to grab all your pictures, any images, video that you've uploaded directly into WordPress, all that kind of stuff, all your plugins, the theme you're using, everything like that, all of that's located in the WP content folder. So alternatively, instead of just setting it up, now everything's working. It's all set up, it's working fine. Instead of going in and adding all that manually, what you could do is just move the whole folder. So here's what I'm going to do. Stop doing that. I have downloaded Filezilla. So I went to download.com, which it just goes to that CNET site. I'm directing you to go here in case you haven't downloaded this yet, because this is the best place to get it. I think I already did this in the video, but here you go again. So go to Filezilla and go to download.com, and get this Filezilla client right here. Download it, install it. So I've already done that. So mine's installed and running, and I'm going to open it up. So here's what your Filezilla client will look like. Okay, so this is a better way to do it than in the GoDaddy control panel. You can also do it from there, but here you're going to connect to your site from here. You're going to connect your hosting account. All the files are going to come up over here, and all your files on your computer are here. So you can see I've already preemptively gone to my Zamp folder. So C drive, Zamp, htdocs. This is my computer right here. Go into the root directory. Now here's what I wouldn't do. I said at the beginning, if you need to, maybe zip up the whole root directory and move that over. You don't really need to do that. The main thing you're going to need to do is content. Okay, includes is a folder that has, if you've changed some CSS and stuff like that, if you've done a lot of stuff related to changing plugins and fonts, and you might need that folder as well. But the main thing you're going to need is likely content. Okay, the rest of it has been set up by GoDaddy on this side, so you shouldn't mess with that. So I'm going to go back now into GoDaddy's cPanel. Okay, so here's their file manager. So if I click on this, I could do this from here. So you click on the file manager. You're always going to want to go to the web root, the public HTML. It'll probably default you to there. You want to go to the web root, and it will show you all the files that are in here. So MrMikeSloan.com is my main domain. So this is everything that's in there. Some of these are directed to different domains, or there's subfolders within that domain. Sample Migrate is the new WordPress site I set up, and here's all the stuff. Okay. Now I could zip up WP content, upload it from here, unzip it, and put that stuff into here. I think it's easier to do it with Filezilla, and I'll show you why. What I'm going to suggest that you don't do, unless you have to, is you don't mess with the other folders, and you definitely don't mess with like WP config and the links. You leave all those files intact, because GoDaddy set up your database connection and everything in WP config. You don't want to overwrite that. So unlike what I said a little earlier, you only need to do that in very few cases. You're not going to move the whole root directory. You're just going to move some of the stuff. So in lieu of doing it this way, I'm going to recommend Filezilla. And what you're going to need for that is your FTP login. So if you go here, it will show you your FTP accounts, okay? Your FTP accounts are right there, and when you set up GoDaddy, it prompted you to set up a login for your cPanel, secondary to your login for your GoDaddy account. That's what the login information is for. That's matching the login information for your main FTP account. And if you don't remember the password because you didn't copy it down, you can configure that from here. Okay, now I know what mine is. So this is my FTP server. So that is what you put right here when you're going to log in Filezilla. You put ftp.mrmikesloan.com. Whatever username you set up for this is what you put there. I made my username Mr. Mike Sloan, and whatever password is what you put right here. Okay, so my password, see if I can type this in right. Okay, and then your port is always going to be port 21, and then you connect. Now that should be, you could save that as a profile. So once you connect once, you should be in good shape and you're connected. So mine's actually saved in here. So every time I want to connect, I can just go to there. I don't have to do it every time. But just so you guys know, your main domain, okay, which is right here, would be preceded by FTP period. And that's going to be your host, FTP dot your main domain, whatever.com.info. And then your username and password are what you set up for your cPanel when you set it up with GoDaddy, not your GoDaddy login, but whatever you made for your cPanel login. You connect, and this is everything in your GoDaddy hosting folder. So you go into public HTML, you go into sample migrate, and the folder with all the stuff in it that you're missing is WP content. So don't mess with all this stuff. Go into WP content and literally take everything in it, just Ctrl A, and delete it all. Okay, delete everything from WP content. It might take a minute. Okay, and up here you see the navigation of you in the root directory so you know where you are. And you can actually move this around a little bit. So if you need more space up there, more space here, and you can do the same thing here. So in my computer, which is on the left side, I've already gone to WP content. What I'm going to do as soon as this is deleted is I'm going to take this and move it over there. I might not have wanted to delete index.php. Because index.php was probably a GoDaddy file. Languages I probably didn't need to delete either, but it doesn't really need to be there. Let's stop this operation really. Nope, it's already gone, too late. Okay, whatever. So keep deleting the stuff. We'll make sure this works. If it doesn't work, I'll show you how to undo it, which isn't that bad either, but I don't think it'll matter. In fact, I might not even load the index.php file over there. I'll just load this stuff and it'll probably create a new index file for me. But this is how you move your content. So I'm just going to pause while it's doing this because we don't need to wait and watch. Okay, so the directory is empty now. You can see it says empty directory listing. Now I'm going to take this stuff over here, highlight that, and move it over. I'm going to take the index too because that was my initial intention, was to delete everything and then move it all over. I think I might have made a mistake there with the index, but we'll find out soon enough. There's always a bit of troubleshooting, but this, you may not need to do this. I mean, it's depending on how much content you'd have to move. Most of you will, because you're going to have a bunch of graphics and a bunch of different plugins, and they're all going to be sitting there on your home computer still. So this may take a minute as well. So I'll just pause the video while this is uploading. It'll probably take about 3 or 4 minutes to get everything over there, and then I'll come back to you guys. Okay, depending on your connection speed, that might take a bit of time. That actually took me about 7 minutes. I'm in Grand Bend right now. My connection's kind of slow. It's a lot different. On campus, it probably would have taken 30 seconds. But all the stuff is in there, and the index file did transfer over. Now, I don't think that's a file that's going to cause any issues. I think it relates to the actual content in that folder. So let's go back to the main site. Yep, and there's my picture, and the slider's working. Everything's fine now. So the content that was missing is now there. If I go back to my plugins, all of the plugins, and I should have gone here before. These plugins were probably all there, but they weren't in the content folder, so they weren't activated or installed. So now that I move that over via the directory, all that stuff is there. So it's a little bit of a tedious step once you get the database in, but it's not that big of a deal. And even after that, the whole process should take you less than 15 minutes. So you set the new WordPress database, you go in here, you do the new install, then you go right to here, you click on that database, you clear the database, you upload your existing database, you fix the permalinks. Don't forget to fix the permalinks, And at that point, you should be able to log in. Your site may load up as a blank white space because the theme's not there, but you should be able to log in and throw the theme in. Or alternatively, you can just right away do the whole WP content folder via Filezilla, and then you're done. You've migrated your site. It's that simple. So I don't want to say it's that simple, but if you follow this video and the steps in the video, it should not be that big of a deal to take a site from Zamp and get it set up on GoDaddy. So that concludes the end of this lecture, and I will have a separate lecture where I specifically show you how to export the databases, and I'll do Zamp and GoDaddy for both sets of students for the final project. And I'll have another one as well on troubleshooting the GoDaddy issue we're having this year with some of these IP addresses being blocked. I know some of you have GoDaddy sites that work perfectly at home, and now you've come to campus and they've stopped working. So I'll have another video on that as well.